Now let's talk about President Tinubu's latest ambassadorial picks. In a bid to strengthen this country's global presence, the president has sent a fresh batch of non-career nominees to the Senate for confirmation, adding to his initial list of 32 ambassadorial candidates. The new crop includes the immediate past sole administrator of Rivers State and former Chief of Naval Staff Ibok Ibas, former senator and presidential aide Ita Enang, former First Lady of Imo State Chioma Ohakim, former Minister of the Interior Abdul Rahman Dambazao, who is an ex-Chief of Army Staff, and Senator Jimo Ibrahim. They join an earlier list of nominees that includes Reno Omokri, Femi Fani Kayode, Mahmood Yakubu, and Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, among others. The Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs is reviewing the nominations and is expected to report back within a week. So what kind of perspective will the nominees bring to Nigeria's diplomatic corps? Are these the right people to represent Nigeria abroad at a time when it needs to present itself in the most positive way possible? Well, for his assessment, I'm joined now in the studio by the political analyst and executive director of Development Specs Academy, Professor Okey Ikechukwu, who is a member of the editorial board of This Day newspaper and is also a professor of strategic management and human capital development. Great to see you again, Prof.
Same here, Charles.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
My pleasure.
What do you make of President Tinubu's ambassadorial nominations? Do you think they'll strengthen Nigeria's diplomatic presence globally or weaken it?
I think the first thing is, the good news is that at last we have the ambassadors. We've been waiting for them for a long time. And I think we should also consider that an ambassadorial appointment has what you might call a schedule of duties. An ambassador is supposed to understand state and diplomatic protocol, be familiar with international relations, be familiar with intergovernmental relations and communication. And therefore, wherever he or she is sent to, that person becomes the president of Nigeria to the extent that he represents the image of the nation.
He or she?
He or she, yes. Now, if you enter the ambassadorial quarters of a nation in any other nation, that building is the nation being represented. So whoever you send there must be among your best. Now, two questions or several issues arise. Number one, the progressive reduction in the number of professional diplomats who get ambassadorial appointment is a matter of concern. It has a job description. That's number one. Number two, there's nothing wrong with appointing somebody who is not a career diplomat, provided he or she will perform on that schedule. My concern is that the long list does not appear to present a substantial number of individuals who I see as capable of enhancing our national image. Well, that's my perspective. To that extent, then, I worry that many of them, and I speak this with a sense of responsibility, will not deliver from the perspective of what we expect ambassadors to do. The other point of concern for me is that, look at the age bracket. When will young people in the Federal Republic of Nigeria become part of national governance? Look at the age bracket. Which of them has not held at least two positions in the past? Is that how this country will progress? I disagree completely. I'm over 60 now, so I have no juniors. If some of us and many people in government became active in the national space between the ages of 32 and 38, and they are now in their 70s and 80s, and when they think of anybody to do a job, it's still to look for somebody within that generation. What crime did the young ones commit?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
That's a perspective that has not. People are grumbling, oh, you know, he chose his friends. That's an issue on his own. You won't choose your enemies. So it's neither here nor there. But the point is, take critically three issues. There ought to be a much larger number of career diplomats. There ought to be some scaling down in terms of age. It doesn't have to be our ancestors representing us all the time.
But I mean, you made some very good points there. Given your assessment and the way that you've looked at that list and the potential issue, I mean, what are the challenges that you foresee for those nominees and how that might impact Nigeria in the context of what the problems we're facing today?
The problems we're facing today are quite, they are legion. You have the matter of perception, both right and wrong. You have the matter of Trump's threat and the reasons for it. You also have the matter of regular reportage, which does not show that a lot of good things are happening. Maybe some of it is contrived. Then you also have the matter of some ministers of this government who are really doing their best in the national interest, ready to do the best, but are drowned out by negative vibrations. All of that are in the mix. Now you post as ambassadors. What brief are you going to get them within, maybe give them a workshop or a retreat on what it means to be an ambassador, when most of them already see themselves as big men and women and who have been driving around in Cyrene for quite a while, who are used to privileges, and who expect that as ambassadors, when they come and you're calling them Your Excellency, they're actually excellent, and who will go and speak without being briefed, and who may look down career diplomats in their stations or missions, and that will create further problems.
Well, let me come in here, because that point is very important, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, in terms of temperament, what kind of people does Nigeria need now to represent it properly abroad, given the impression many people in the US and the West have of this country right now? Does Nigeria need people who are into showboating to represent it, or does it need people who are pretty restrained and understated?
We need people who are restrained, understated, tempered in such a way that rather than respond, because what's in vogue now is whenever anything bad is said, quote unquote, in fact, whenever you need different perspective is presented, there's a knee-jerk response. I want Mr. President to see that I'm supporting him, so he started attacking everybody in sight, including neighbors. You know, oh, when the president had made trouble there, you know I'm one of his supporters. Now, if you have people like that out there, will be the losers. And also, I get a sense that there might not be a cohesive story. There might not be a single story that's called a Nigerian story coming from all of them. And so there's no common front. Then you look at also the list of names, really. It's not that everybody there who is not a career diplomat cannot be. If somebody like Charles Anagoli is announced as diplomat, a lot of people would say, well, I'm glad they noticed. If you go and take the current...
I would say the same thing for you.
Let's check the number and dial again.
Let's start a mutual admiration club.
Very well.
You admire me, I'll admire you. We can spend the rest of the evening doing that. But sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so if you take, for instance, the current controller of customs, Wale, if you make him an ambassador, Nigeria will be proud wherever he's posted. Iba is not bad, and all of that. There are a few. In Mahmoud, despite his the incubus hanging all over him with INEC, Mahmoud will make, you know, he's a suave kind of person. How he will recover from his tenure in INEC for the rest of it, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, because the problem is that might follow him internationally.
But no, it's in the diplomatic community. That may not be so easy to attach it to him because his general ambience, he will actually make good representation, like him or not. Now, I would like to be objective enough to say there are people who can. But when you pick somebody because he's a former head of state, former governor, people you like, that's not where to post people to make them happy.
Right. So
give them board appointments, they will make money, they will stay out of trouble and allow professionals to do what they need to do.
So in other words, we don't need people who are loud, who are obnoxious, and who want to dominate.
Yes, and who instinctively try to make some noise so that somebody will notice they're doing something, whether good or bad.
So perhaps those who want to diplomatically enhance and augment Nigeria's image abroad and encourage the world to see this country in that light. Those are the kinds of people we need. So a sort of catalyst figure as an ambassador, someone who is endearingly supportive of this country and remarkably ego-free, if I might say that.
You summarized it, but let me, you know, that's why I speak of. Sometime, I think that was 2010, I organized a training for ECOWAS staff on state and diplomatic protocol. Now, call, and from across West Africa, now go and call out these nominees and ask them, if somebody is visiting from outside and you're going to receive him at the airport, which country's flag will be on the left or the right? You won't have an answer. How do you receive a diploma? How do you expect to be received in London, for instance, if you're going there as the High Commissioner? You get in there, you discover that one director is not didn't he know that the ambassador is coming? That schedule is for people with refinement.
Absolutely.
Even if unrefined, they are constrained to control themselves such that they are like a sponge. They will absorb anything and drop nothing. Now you're going with people who, you're sending a number of people who are wearing their emotions on their sleeves, whose ego is slightly bigger than the national stadium, who are like balloons, containing nothing but very big until you put a needle to it. Now, the criteria you mentioned, that's what we need. It's lacking in quite a number of that, those people mentioned. Of course, there's a matter also of national equity in the places of origin of those appointed. It creates another sore test and all those things. So
right, and given your assessment, what sort of confirmation process do you expect from the Senate, and what would be the implications if some of these people are rejected?
Sorry, first of all, what I expect from the Senate is that all of them will be approved, because Senate does not Senate anything. It just runs errands, pretends to see it, and simply endorses whatever is required of it. The gestures are there. You see the ceremony. There's a president and all of that. But whether there's informed outcome based on debate is a matter I don't want us to go into. So they are likely to all be cleared. That's number one. Number two, with that clearance, what's the next leg in their is to head to the missions. With what brief? With what knowledge of diplomacy? Many of them are already very sure about being capable of the job without knowing the job description. So this is further damaging things at three levels: professionalism, if you like, cohesion within the diplomatic community, because a good deal of the time, those who come from outside come in like sore thumbs. They jar the environment. You don't shout in foreign affairs, and there are certain protocols that are almost like instincts. How many of them are going to wait to absorb it? They are going to go to return and they get to their stations within the next couple of days. And the other dangerous thing about the diplomatic environment is that as you're blundering merrily, they'll also be watching you merrily.
Indeed.
Knowing with the next bus stop where your car will crash. Or it's Nigeria that will lose.
Indeed. And talking about Nigeria, let's look at the country that they're now going to represent and what they're going to take with them in that representation. Does this country feel tangibly different to you since President Trump stepped into the fray last month? Does it feel like we're living in a moment of fundamental change and transition in which security can no longer be taken for granted? And in that sense, would you say that we're living on the cusp of history at the moment?
Well, I think we've been on a cliffhanger, not even just the cusp of history, for quite a while. The first thing I'd like to point to since Trump turned up with his tweet is that security has deteriorated conspicuously. There's an increase in kidnapping. There's an increase in bandit activities. There's an increase in everything that represents negative from standpoint of security. So I ask myself, yes, I'm not happy about it. Yes, I can say that, look, what is government doing? But the other question is, are we actually being set up? Why the sudden upswing? That's one. Two, we had a state governor addressing the nation and saying, those protecting a certain school were withdrawn. Within 1 hour of that withdrawal, the students were abducted. Then we also hear a government functionary telling us, we've recovered those children, rescued them. Whom did you arrest for carrying those children away? Second, how did you rescue them? You use the word rescue by non-kinetic means. What does that mean? You went and sang Christmas carol. Okay, we like your singing, take your children and go. No. Oh, we didn't give them any money. Them, which means you encountered them and left them and came out. And then you have a minister of defense who tells you, oh, you know, you can't penetrate the forest. So you ask yourself, are we that stupid? Like we cannot see that there must be some level of complicity. That is different from saying that the presidency is supervising it, or it's also the presidency that's in charge. Look at how Oba died. Look at the spit.
That's the Brigadier General who was executed,
yeah, so practically executed. It was set up, obviously. Now, I'm speculating there. But the point being, when you look at the sudden increase after Trump, you ask, okay, is it possible that it's the bandits and their sponsors that have gotten an upswing? Or is it possible that the American state is actually getting involved to create the impression that there's a lot that's wrong with Nigeria? Now, that answer I do not have. But what I can say, looking at all the variables, is that it is difficult to convince anybody that there are not people in Nigeria, highly placed people, who know what's going on, who are probably partly responsible for it, and who are making it to continue.
Well, looking at all those variables that you're talking about, do you think the administration understands the size of this moment for Nigeria as both Donald Trump and insecurity loom over this country? And if they understand it, do you think they know how to meet it?
Now, let me dwell a little on the Donald Trump intervention. Assuming I'm Donald Trump and I want to intervene in Nigeria, I am convinced Christians are being wiped out, and I'll bring in military force. Question number one, how will I know whom to bomb? That's a showstopper. Are there people who will carry the badges on their chest? Okay, I hear it's all going on in Maiduguri, so anybody you see in Maiduguri, you bomb him? No. So the question of unilateral and comprehensive military intervention is not on the table at all. But there could be, it has what you call a demonstration effect of making this country and the rulers know, look, we've noticed, we're paying attention. The other reason why it may not be easy for anybody to jump in is that there are interests here other than American interests. If France or whichever has a lot of investment, you can't just jump in, you will talk to France. And there's the lithium trade. China is all over the place here in Nigeria, is taking over the space. So whether the intervention from the US is because of the issue raised of genocide, or it is the fact that it's losing many of the economic fronts where it was hoping to dominate, is another matter.
Well, to be fair, I mean, the Americans have very, very sophisticated intelligence gathering methods, and they can send in drones that are virtually undetected and could remain tracking. I mean, they could be doing, in fact, there were reports that some of them were kind of flying around the place. They could be tracking, you know, these people have patterns that they exhibit, which are clearly out of order with the rest of what is happening in other places, that can demonstrably show that this is who they are. But let me ask you this, Prof. I mean, if you were in President Tinubu's shoes right now, how would you seek to build peace in this country at a time of incredibly destructive insecurity? How would you rewire and build a better world in this country under circumstances of extraordinary financial pressure and almost unimaginable poverty? And how would you harness the capacity of the people of this country to build a better future collectively in a society that is riven with ethnic, religious, and regional divisions? And I say those things because it gives people an idea of how heavy the hat is that the president has to wear.
The first point is that as president, I'll give them a country to begin to talk about how to deal with poverty in that country. The question now is, do you have a country? Yes, we have a country, but there are divisions. So some people are being killed, there's hunger in the land. There are forests where some people are residing. If America wants to help, I will tell them, give us drones. I was part of a team that went to South Africa, I think last year, on a study tour. It's military related. There's a drone manufacturing company there. I think I've mentioned this on your show once. It will take 6 weaponized drones for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Weaponized.
Somebody said just go to Sambisa Forest and wipe out the entire place.
You don't need to wipe out the forest. Because with the drone, you can isolate. Look, if we go outside now and you bring out your watch and it's daylight, your watch will be shown ticking from satellites. So, and when you talk about a band of 50 people, 200 riding on a motorcycle, they're easy to isolate.
Indeed.
So the issue then being, there cannot be the type of killings going on, and I as president will be able to convince anybody to be patriotic. The killings must stop. The kidnappings must stop. The raids must stop. For as long as they've not stopped, for as long as people who are traveling on the road can be picked up and picked off, Charles, is retired, was he Major General? Somebody who has served this country while alive and young and up to past middle age. He dedicated his life to protecting this country at the risk of being killed. He was picked off on Lokoja Road, right? I think 2 years ago. The time they shot at Buhari when he was going to Kaduna, supposing they actually blew him out. And you're telling me that, and that's the other thing. They also appear.
Very briefly, because we're out of time. We've literally got 20 seconds.
When did we
sorry
start?
about that. Well, we've had 30 minutes, I'm afraid. So
there's something that happens to time when we come here, Charles.
well, it's just that
I may claim damages.
It's very interesting talking
right.
with you, but
Goodness
time is
me.
galloping ahead. So your final summary before
My
we
summary
have to
is
go.
I've made the points I needed to make. I'll
Yes.
just touch on the safe school, which I met you talking
Yeah,
with.
very,
Yes.
very briefly.
Very briefly, you're not going to have safe school squad as a separate team of it's supposed to be part of integrated societal endeavor to keep.
Right.
At the time schools were safe, we didn't have patrol vehicles for the schools. What has gone wrong?
Okay.
Restore the state, restore the security and the intelligence agencies, and every other thing will follow from it. But as
Okay.
president, let's see you deciding. Let's have culprits. Let's have scapegoats.
Okay.
Then people will
Professor,
learn.
I want to thank you very much indeed. Professor Okey Ikechukwu is a political analyst, executive director of Development Specs Academy, a member of the editorial board of This Day newspaper, and a professor of strategic management and human capital development. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you again. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.